record this. So can you guys see my freedom screen, my training screen? You good? You guys see the, yep, perfect. Awesome. So just very, very quick recap. This is a 3-part series. 2 weeks ago, January, mid-January, we did our first one, which is lead generation. And so if you're able to join us, that's great. It was 1 hour. And if you're not, have no worries. I'm going to email you the recording as well as the resources we provided for that. So lead generation, of course, our main focus there was these are new leads. These are fresh people into your database, or if you're cold calling. So there's some systems that we put in place for lead generation. So we talked about that. Today is probably the one that I'm the most passionate about is relationship building. So those of you that have been in the business for a minute, this is the one where we double down and we love on our people. We do follow up, and we build relationships, right? We're not in the housing business. We're in the relationship building business, or the human business, right? So this one's pretty near and dear to my heart. And there's a lot of different coaching and system styles out there about relationship building. We'll talk about a few of them, but like I said in the last session, we got to keep everything simple. Right? So we talked about last time, and we'll continue to reinforce on this session, as well as the last session, which is transactions. It's about systems. And once you build out systems, then it's about finding the technology to support those systems. And then it's about hiring people or leveraging yourself against some admin help or some marketing help, things like that. So a lot of times when I'm coaching an individual agent or a team, they hire all these people first. They have a football team. And then they're like, oh, well, what CRM, what technology are we going to use? And then they back into systems. If you're building anything, regardless if you're selling houses or selling hot dogs, you need a system first. Then you enhance it with technology, and then you leverage it to people. So I see it built backwards. And that's why sometimes people get the most frustrated. Also, that's why, especially in relationship building, our customer service starts to lack, right? When you didn't have a lot of business, you could do those personal connections like, hey, happy birthday, or drop something by. But the more transactions you get, the more relationship based you are. Now, instead of 5 birthdays a month, you're dropping something cute off. You have 50 people every month, right? And unfortunately, because we didn't build a system, you can't maintain that. So that's why I'm pretty passionate about this topic of how do we build systems to get our relationships at a higher level. So obviously it gives us more referrals, right? So I'm going to hop to the second section here. And this is an image I created to keep it visual in my head. Real estate is pretty simple. We have 3 buckets where we have to build out systems for our business, which is great. I think about it like a division or a department store, right? Department store has a kids section, a men's section, a women's section, right? So these departments are what your business has to have in order for it to thrive at the highest level. So we talked about a couple sessions ago, the lead generation systems. We're talking about today about relationship building systems, and then we'll talk about transaction systems. So in my mind, I think of it like departments in a store, right? But then we break that apart, and we have to kind of talk through what's inside that system. What are we using for technology and people? So I just wanted you to give you that. And what we talk about is you can't do all 3 of these, build these systems out at the same time. If you are a new agent, you need to be building systems for lead generation. If you are an agent that has a good amount of business and you're not stressed out, you have leads in your pipeline, then possibly you need to strengthen those relationship building systems. If you have a ton of transactions and you feel like deals are falling apart, you're super stressed out because you can't maintain the paperwork, you can't ask for the referral because you're just so caught up in the home inspection or repair addendums and all that. That next session would be building systems and transactions. So I want you to identify today, where do you think you need to do an audit on your business? It's not always in linear. It's not always lead generation relationship. You could skip literally to this session if so. So how do we build any system? So if I'm building a system, if I'm manufacturing a car in a factory, right? It's a sequence of steps. It's a repeatable action for all applications. We're building the same car over and over again. And then what is it going to do to save you time and provide better customer service? How do we get more efficient, right? So it's kind of a factory mindset when you're building out a system for anything. So believe it or not, in real estate, to build relationships, it's a sequence of steps. It's not sexy. It's not rocket science. It's this sequence of steps, like a food chain or anything like that. Repeatable action steps, this is where we lose it, right? We maybe do the sequence of steps to build relationships, but then when we get super busy, it's not repeatable. It's not that consistency. We have good intentions behind it, but the wheels on the bus tend to fall off if we don't have the right systems in place. And then saving time. Instead of nurturing our people, loving on our people, we're out showing houses and we're doing home inspections, right? That's the time efficiency, which has become the challenge, right? So I want you to think through this lens when we're going through the systems. Why am I going to waste my time building a system? Well, it's because we want to get to the point where you can save yourself time, hang out with your family more, go on vacation, or build out more business. So most of you today, if you're really taking this session seriously, have a book of business. And this is something I say often, is even in a long-term successful business, we always need to lead generate, right? We're always putting fresh blood, or I always say like fresh water in a bucket, right? We always keep new people coming in. And in real estate, that's because, I hate to say it, but people pass away. People become real estate agents. Your past clients suddenly think real estate's easy and they become a real estate agent, right? And sometimes they move out of the area, and so they can't refer you to the local marketplace that you're in, right? So we constantly do have to add business to our CRMs, our database, right? But for the most part, when you have a book of business, when you've been in business 2, 3, 4, 10, 12, 15 years, you're actually not going to be lead generating anymore. You're going to be lead catching, right? So if you're building these relationships, quality, well-driven, and asking for referrals, they should literally be giving you leads and you're catching them, right? You're not running out, cold calling anymore. You're actually nurturing the relationships you have. So I want you to think about, if you're the person that's like, I hate cold calling. I hate calling my database. Like, I hate asking for business from my past clients. You're not doing that anymore. That's lead generation. When you're asking, hey, do you want to know anybody who wants to buy or sell real estate? What we're now doing is we're just waiting for the opportunity for them to give us a lead, right? So we're strengthening the relationship. So in this particular conversation, it's more of checking in. Hey, how are you doing? How are the kids doing? How can I be of value to you? How can I serve you at a higher level? You're remodeling the kitchen. I have a great granite guy, or hey, I have a good hardwood floor person, right? That's not asking for a referral. That's just saying, hey, remember me, I'm over here and I have a lot of resources to help you. And then that'll trigger that lead catching mechanism. What I tend to see, and I'm guilty of it too, building out 2 large real estate teams, owning a brokerage myself, right? Is that when we get super excited about all these leads coming in, especially the market's very solid. You guys have had I see a lot of great results last year in 2021, is we get a little comfortable. We're like, hey, I had an amazing year, so I feel like I'm good. And so there's a word that I tend to see in real estate. It's called lucky. I asked the person, hey, how was your year? It was great. How did you build your business? Well, I feel like was just luck, right? Relationship building is not luck. It's super intentional, right? And it seems almost monotonous. It's like what I always tend to call rinse and repeat over and over. So if you're a successful agent, your business can drop if you don't put systems in place to build and continue to build relationships. So I want you to, I'm sure that's not happening to you, but I want you to kind of consider that, what if the market shifts? I was actually in a meeting today, interest rates are up. Literally from December, this lender said that interest rates were 2.8%, and they've upticked to almost 3.5% in a month. And then he's projecting in this mid-year, it'll go up to 4.5%. Some of your leads, some of your deals, some of your buyers are going to fall out of the market because of that. And that's not in your control. What is in your control is adding more relationships and obviously building more referrals. So in the event the market changes, the inflation rate changes, COVID surges back up, right? You're in relationship with more people. So that's really what's going to have to do, is you're going to have more people to build either your income or your set or hit your goals, right? So a few questions I want you to jot down on your notebook, and I want you to write the answer down. What do you think of, what do you do now? This is no. What do you do now? Not no. What do you do now with your clients beyond the transaction, right? So you had your closing. What do you do with them after the transaction has occurred? No wrong or no right. What are you currently doing? Not what you want to do. What are you currently doing? How do you rank or qualify the quality of your relationships in your CRM? We'll talk about that. So how do you know that those are your like go-to people that are going to literally refer you to the hill? Or there's just some clients that are pretty shy and, you know, they appreciate the level of service you did, but they just aren't going to give you any leads potentially. And then how do we create a relationship experience versus a transactional relationship? How do we really build the point where it's not about that one house, it's about helping them throughout the many, many, many years that they're in the real estate transactions with you, or equity or home improvement projects or things like that. And then how can I show a personal relationship and yet build efficiency with your time, right? And then how do we give back through consistency with your community? So those are some questions I want you to think about when we're going through this. The top ones are the most important. What do I know past, what am I doing past the last transaction with my client? How do I rank the quality? And how do I create a relationship experience versus a transactional one? Like those three are like my top priorities on building those relationships. So if you remember session one, we did a 36 touch plan. The reason why it's also in session two is because it is the domino, it's the stack effect of everything you do to build a relationship. So I'm going to pull it up because I'm sure you guys remember what it is, or some of you I know actually weren't able to attend session one. We have some new registrations today. This is a simple spreadsheet, but what it is your dominoes every single month of what you need to do to build relationships. So when I'm calling my database, it says January. Why am I calling you, right? So this is update my databases in January. Second is I need more vendor contacts. Can you please help? Number 3 is in March. Hey, I have goals for 2022. Can you help me, right? So you can build a dialogue around that topic and then call, text, email, video chat, video text, anything you want to do. Then we have little gifts that we give our clients each month or each quarter, and then video text message. So this is a roadmap for you to stay in connection with your people. I'm going to send this to you. There is a lot of ideas on here. Thin it out. It doesn't have to be all of this stuff every single month, right? But we need to get to the point where you're at least communicating with your people once a quarter, right? So if it's January, great. If you're like, oh, January 19th, it's already at the end of the month, I'm going to start in February. That's fine. At least once a quarter, 1, 2, 3, 4, I've got to be connecting with my database, right? And you know that. You guys have been, you guys are seasoned, experienced agents. But we want you to have a plan, and I want you to print it out, and it is your roadmap, your dominoes that you do every single month. And it gets to the point where it's just like anything else, right? It's just that routine maintenance of your business. So if you're saying, what's the first system I need to put in place to build more relationships, to strengthen my database, to get more referrals, you start with this simple plan, right? Every single month, these are 3 or 4 things I'm going to do to communicate value to my database, right? So it seems simple, but I can tell you every month, some of us get very creative on how we communicate, right? So I also want you to talk about how do we follow up with all these leads, and how do we follow up to continue to build relationships? Well, the first thing I want you to think about is if you did a transaction with one of your clients in the last year, it's fine. I want you to consider using a transaction feedback form. We're going to look at that. We need to know what you're doing well. We need to know what you're not doing well, right? No one else is going to see this but you, but there's good insight into building relationships on what went right, what went wrong, right? We all get those surveys when we buy something or we go to a restaurant or a store and they email us a survey. What they're trying to do is number one, show that they value your feedback, but number 2 is learn from that. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about like get to know you forms, things like that. And then we're going to also talk about client events, some forms that we do. So the first one I want you to think about, I'm going to send this to you, is that we have created a Google form, and you can customize it, change the words around, change whatever you need to, but I'm going to email this to you. So what this system would look like is that you close a transaction yesterday, right? You're at the closing table and the transaction is ended, right? The next system is the next morning, whether you manually do it through like a Gmail or a CRM, which is up to you, is we send out a client feedback form via email or via text, right? So of course, we're going to say, hey, congratulations on your closing. We loved working with you. Click on this link, and if you can provide us with a quick feedback on how we did throughout the transaction, right? And that's what it says. I'm your realtor for life. I want feedback that helps me grow. If you've ever been in a Google form, I customize this. So I literally just hit this little customize button. I uploaded this image. I created a Canva image. So you could add your logo there. I put a simple quote, feedback is the breakfast of champions, right? Brand it to yourself, change the colors around, right? How did you find us, or who referred you when we first started the transaction? That's one of the first questions that I ask, and they choose, their version looks like this. So they choose which one that they want. If you were to rank us based on our communication with you throughout the real estate experience, what score would you give us? 1 being the lowest, 5 being the best communication. And then how can we improve that score? Same thing with negotiation. How can we improve that score in the future? And would you refer us to any friends in the future? Yes, no, maybe. And then would you be willing to provide us with a written testimonial? And at the very end, optional, these are asterisk, is saying we would love for you to give us a testimonial, and we're going to be entering this into enter to win contest. You could do a gift card. In this example, it's like iPod earbuds, which are like 150, 200 bucks. And then we'll draw that name. The reason why I want you to think about the first system and building relationships is that your relationship just started after the transaction, right? You went through the home inspection, you've negotiated this crazy multiple offer situation. You're the rock star in their eyes. And you've probably heard this with the different coaches and trainers, that level-o-meter is different now, right? They needed you in the transaction, but now they're starting to forget you. Even the day after the closing, they're starting to forget you. And it's not that they don't appreciate and value. So I want you to just implement or consider implementing a customer feedback system that every closing gets one. Every closing is connected to a feedback form or something like that. And you can kind of reward their behavior by giving gift cards or whatever you feel is appropriate. They're not giving you leads. It's not a RESPA thing. It's saying, hey, thank you for taking time and giving me feedback so I can become better as a business owner, right? So I want you to first think about, maybe that's one of the first systems you can build into, how do I build stronger business relationships, okay? So first one is that. And then I want you guys to think about it. There's many agents out there that do client events. And I love a good client event. When I coach my clients, I am adamant that they need to do them. I think it's for 2 reasons. It is always good to see eyeball to eyeball with your past clients outside of the transactions to build that human connection, right? You're not talking home inspections. You're not talking interest rates. You are just talking to them about life, right? But the second reason why we really are intentional about client events is they start to see the other people in your business. They see your database literally showing up live at your event, right? And they're interacting with a past client, and they're just loving to hear about all the amazing things that you did for them in their transaction. And they're thinking, wow, this person made me feel like I was his or her only client. And look at all of these clients that he or she has served over the past years. That's amazing that they built that. I think of it like a restaurant, a very busy restaurant, right? We walk in the restaurant, we're like, oh, it's a 2-hour wait. Well, you're thinking, man, it must be pretty good to eat here if I'm going to have to wait 2 hours to sit at the table. Versus I walk in, there's no wait on a Saturday night. I'm like, maybe this food's not good. Maybe this isn't a great maybe there's services and why is there nobody here, right? Client events create that mindset around that quote success in this business. But I want you to take it to the next level. If you're reading my screen, which I'm sure you have, is that we need to make sure these client events are reinforcing your relationship building systems, right? So you're now about how do I get this client event to give me information so I can build more systems around it. Again, we have to keep building systems, right? So I've been to many client events. I've also hosted many client events. And let's say when you just doing an open forum and they come in, let's say you're having, I don't know, like a pumpkin patch event, right? They come in, they have kids, they've got their spouse, their partners, and they're just all over the place. They're in the park, they're in the hayride, they're everywhere, right? Well, the challenge with that is if we don't funnel them into a check-in system, we're never going to add any systems for that. It's just going to be a fun time. They're going to be super grateful for you, but you're not going to actually have a system behind it. What I want you to consider is that you need to have a check-in. So what I've seen and experienced through coaching many events is that you have your laptop. It's a hotspot if it's not in a Wi-Fi situation, and you have them check in just like they would check in at a dentist's office, just like if you were meeting any other professional, you check in with the receptionist, right? Get a friend, get a fellow agent to help support you. But I want you to have your CRM up, and I want you to check them in, right? I've had people give them stickers, or they give them a little swag bag, enticing them to go check in. Hey, make sure you check in and get your swag bag, right? So we're going to update their information right in live time. We're going to build a system so that your database, your CRM is stronger, right? So we're going to ask the person basic info, contact info. Hey, what's your first and last name? We're going to pull it up in the CRM. We're going to say, we have this email address for you. We have this phone number as a primary, and we have this mailing address for you. Has any of that changed? Well, that's not my address. Or, hey, I don't even have an address. Can I get an updated address, right? So we spend so much time building a CRM that we don't always have the quality information that we need. So the first thing I want you to build in a system for a client event is have a check-in process. Don't just let them hang out and grab a beer or grab a pumpkin. Like, I want you to build a system around it so that every event you do, if you do 2 events a year, which we coach to, that's 2 times a year, you're updating your database to see if it's the quality information that you have, right? People change jobs all the time. Their emails change, right? Their cell phones, they add one, they change things. It's just part of how we are. You know, if their address changes, is that an indication that they bought or sold a house without you, right? But one of the things that we've seen is that people have these really cool cards. They're called client info cards. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. It's created out of Canva. It's like a postcard style. It says complete this form and drop it in the box where you checked in. So they have a big red box, a big pink box, whatever the color that you choose. They have these physical old school printed cards, and on it has some additional information, right? So it says, hey, what are the ages of your kids or of your family members that live with you? What type of pets do you have? What are their names? What's your favorite local restaurant that we need to know about? What's your favorite sweet or your favorite beverage? You can change this to whatever you feel comfortable with, but we've got to realize that your database is not just name, phone number, email, address. That's a Rolodex. It's an old school, just Rolodex. You can probably Google it through software, right? CRM is customer relationship management. We'll talk about that later. So we need your events to be constantly updating this, right? If you use this card for your past con event, update it with new information. What's your favorite book? What's your favorite blog? What food do you not like, right? Constantly getting information from them. And I'll tell you, if you do 2 client events a year, you update this information in your CRM, within a year to 2 years, you've got gold in there. You've got an opportunity to be able to drop off a book, right? Send some custom name tags for their dogs, right? Or cats, right? You've got the opportunity to send them a gift card to their favorite local restaurant, right? That's the stuff that builds relationships rather than just sending everybody this generic $5, $10 gift card to Starbucks. There's a lot of people that don't even like Starbucks, right? So I want you to just think about how can we build a quality system around your client events. The second kind of tip or trick is reinvent your client events where they're system-based to reinforce those relationships. And I'm sure some of you do these things, but how do we go into 2022 doing those at a higher level, right? I also want to talk about your CRM specifically. I coach a lot of people with different CRMs, so I'm not here to say one CRM is better than the other, but it's the one you use. But one thing I would constantly say is you've got to figure out your quality of your people. So we were just talking to you about a client event, right? Your lowest level quality of people possibly are not going to go to that event. Why? Because events are not cheap, right? We want our top people. So there's many systems out there, but this is a simple, like, no-brainer A, B, C, system, right? Anybody who's an A plus, or I've seen people call it VIP, or like top referral partner, whatever you want to call it. They've given you multiple referrals a year. Multiple means more than one, right? And every year, right? So if they were an A plus last year, they gave you their mom and their sister, they're an A plus. Okay, you're going into 2022. Now they, maybe you're hitting mid-year, they haven't given you new referrals. Are they A plus? Did they drop down to an A, right? So an A is one referral, B is no referrals yet, but has potential. And then C is maybe they're new to your CRM, or possibly just need to build more relationships to that. But I want you guys to, comes down to time and your money, is if you're sending your C's and your B's, all of this marketing material, and you're sending them invites to all of your client events, financially, they haven't given you any referrals. So there's a challenge if you're looking from a business side of that return on that investment. So there's a little bit of a gut check when you're doing this quality, but I want you to treat people A plus when they haven't given you any referrals. You can maybe build that relationship and work them up. Okay, so I think the big thing, we are constantly, people are evaluating us based on our shopping, this quality, right? There's a lot of grocery stores in town, right? Food Lion, Wegmans, they all have their shopper carts, right? The more that you shop, the more that there's value that they see, right? They see, all right, the last time he swiped his Food Lion VIP card was a month ago, right? Well, that means I haven't been to the grocery store in a month, or I'm going to other grocery stores, right? So we want to make sure everybody is trying to decide in every business who's loyal to me, who wants to help me grow, and what are my services, or my, in this case, produce, is there something that they're wanting to buy from me? So I want you to make sure that you have every CRM. The first thing I look for when I audit an agent is like, do you have them in buckets ranked by quality? And that's important when you're, again, systematizing your relationships. So what CRM do you use? So now we're going to go into the technology piece, right? So a couple systems we just talked about, that's great. Now we're going to slide to that second kind of funnel is, all right, we've built out some systems. We've got some good transaction follow-up systems. We got that 36 touch system in place, right? We're doing all those things to build and connect. And then we also have our event system, right? So we got those three systems in place. All right, now what technology is going to leverage that at a higher level, right? Number one is the CRM. I still have large teams that I start to onboard into the Freedom companies that I coach and train, and they're still using spreadsheets. I'm not going to judge you. I'm just going to share with you that a CRM, technology-wise, automates things. They get birthday cards sent out. They get text message sent out. They remind you a week in advance that somebody's birthday is coming up. So you actually could handwrite the birthday card, stick a stamp on it, and it's not late, right? An Excel spreadsheet's not prompting you, hey, by the way, next Friday is your client's birthday. That's not, an Excel spreadsheet's not built to do that. So if you're not using a CRM, I think that's the first technology tool you have to do that. And then the other thing we're going to talk about is the difference between a database and a CRM. And I even have a hard time, I use those words interchangeably, but in my coaching experience and business experience, they're different. We'll talk about that. And then some tech tools to stay in connection. And then what are we doing to stand out amongst our competitors? Because there's a lot of relationship systems out there. It's the pop buys, it's the notes, it's the item of values. So they may be getting more than just one pop buy. Hate to tell you, but maybe they have 2 or 3 realtors in their circle of friends. Maybe they're getting multiple emails from multiple different realtors, right? So you're doing all those foundational things, but they're also getting those resources from somewhere else. It may or may not tell you that. So how do we stand out? So we're not doing also the same items that agents are doing, right? So the last thing I want you to think about with technology, why am I going to adapt it, is that we all know that it's less expensive to find new customers, right? I mean, sorry, it's more expensive to find new customers. We want to build that repeat customer. That's why we're building that technology out. We talked about that technology CRM. So I want you to think about this. What is the difference between a database and a CRM? I have a lot of agents that I coach where they get online leads or they get Facebook leads, and it dumps right directly into their CRM, into their database. So these are cold people. They don't even know who they are. And some of these leads are like Mickey Mouse at AOL.com. And then they have their past clients in there too, right? So when they're prospecting or when they're inviting people to an event that they're about to host, they're weeding through these leads. The difference between the, Mickey Mouse at AOL.com, and right underneath it's John and Susie Smith, and they've sold them 3 houses, right? So I really want you to either make a decision. You need to really make sure you're cleaning out that CRM where the not mets, people that dump in are completely tagged separate, and you can filter them away. Or I have a lot of people that have a CRM where only people that go in this CRM are people that they actually have relationships with. So I literally have agents that have a CRM that has 400 people in it. And then they have another external technology source, like a Constant Contact, a MailChimp, a spreadsheet, maybe even for that, right? And these are people that they met at open houses. These are people that they went to a networking event and they connected with them, right? But they still don't know them. They met them one time, if at all, and sometimes they get these Facebook leads. I don't even know who they are, right? So they're separating them out, because what I see and what I've experienced even myself is the part of the reason why we're not connecting with relationship building is it's getting muddy. We got all these good leads, people that love us, and then we got these cold leads over here, and they all get mixed together. So either have 2 separate technology systems, database systems, or if you're going to use a one technology CRM, you got to be able to filter it out, right? CRM is what it is. It's that customer relationship management. It's the warm, it's the hot relationships, and that's what's built over time. Again, I'm all about having a database with cold leads. We want to keep adding that fresh water, but it is important to know the difference. I coached a team the other day. They had 15,000 people in their database. And when I asked them to qualify their A+, their A's, their B's, and their C, they had 150. So they sounded like they had a lot of people, 15,000 people in their database, right? But they really had 150 CRM relationships, right? And so what we focused on is that truly enough? Is that all the people in there? Which it wasn't. We got them about to 250, 275 because they didn't have people in there. And how do we squeeze the juice out of those 250? How do we get them in such a relationship-based conversation that they give us more business, right? So I think one of the things about technology I want you to take away from this part of it is that, are you muddying things up? Is your database or your CRM, if you have one together, is it clean? Can I see how many people you truly know versus these internet leads or these one-time meet and greets at an open house? Because there's a difference in the relationship. And there's a difference in what you send them and mail them and spend money on them and how frequently you communicate with them. So just want you to think about that from a technology standpoint. Another piece of technology I want you to think about in building a relationship is social media. We got to get personal with social media. If you have a business page and a personal page, Instagram or Facebook, that's great. That's, in my opinion, and what we coach you, that's marketing, right? We're going to market that you have a new listing. Great. Put that on Instagram and social media. Awesome. Love all that, right? We sold a house. Love that. That's marketing, right? But how do we get to the point where we can take social media and build a relationship with them? So we really coach to having a VIP closed group page, right? So you're going to create this group in Facebook. It's just a subset inside your own personal Facebook profile. You're going to name it what you want to name it, right? VIP for Drew Demery's Homes by Drew, right? Whatever you want to call it, right? But this is where you love on your people. And it's literally only your past clients, potentially your current clients, if you feel like that's appropriate for you, and maybe some vendor partners that you feel like are going to be able to give consistent value. But I want you to gamify the VIP groups. Again, we're using technology to connect people, more relationships, right? This is not a place where you post open houses. This is not a place where you post a just listed. So we're going to give you an example, and I'll email it to you, is what a theme every month, right? You're the only realtor in this group. It would not make sense for you to invite your realtor friends to your closed VIP group. These are your past clients. This is your holy grail of people that are your past clients, right? But have fun in this. This is where you get to play in the sandbox of your past client. So I want you to think about this as like a digital client event every single month. What about close friends and family? Yeah, they're going to support your business. That's great. Add anybody that is your A+, A's, possibly B's, be borderline on that B, right? To this VIP group, right? But this is where you can have fun in this group. Again, be a little more human, less polished, because this is not a marketing. This is a how do we connect and build relationships. So you probably can't read this 100%. I'll email it to you, but think about it, right? January, what is your word of the year or your resolution? February, post a picture of your pet and a caption that best describes the animal in the photo, right? Before and after photos. This one's a really fun one, right? So post a picture of a home project you've done. So we see clients, your past clients, playing this game as a grown adults, and they're showing their before kitchen and their after kitchen, right? And that's the whole month of March, or in this case, April. They're posting those photos in that chat, in that group, right? And these are people that you sold houses 3 years ago to 6 months ago, right? And they're posting that, and then give them a gift, right? Give them a little swag bag, right? So maybe you say, okay, we've had 10 people post this month their before and afters in their situation with their vendors and things like that helped do that. Put 10 names in a hat and draw one name and give that person a swag bag. You put that in your social media page and say, hey, thanks for all the people that played the game. We'll play some other games in the future, right? Another thing is building out more vendors. Hey, what is a vendor? Tell us a vendor you love and why, right? Again, last month they may have repainted their kitchen cabinets. Ask them to post the person's information in there. It might have been your vendor recommendation, or it might be somebody's vendor that you want to add to your actual database, right? So I want you to think about how can you gamify this VIP group. I've seen teams across the country have so much fun in here, right? This is where you can go on Facebook Live and say, hey, what questions do you have about real estate? Or, hey, you know what? I have one group that's like, we love it Tuesday. We love it Friday. Post about stuff that has nothing to do with real estate. You know, I love this new app on my phone. I love this new, whatever product that you see that's kind of fun out there, right? So I want you to think about how can you take technology and connect it with your relationship building. This is a fun way to build that. And then ultimately, it's just going to give you more referrals because they all see that together. The last one I want you to think about with technology is connected to vendors. I'm going to give you this as an example, and it's in Canva, and I'll pop it in here, and you can change the colors. You can add all the vendors in there. You can create multiple pages. You just duplicate and change it up a little bit. But you need to have a digital vendor list, right? The cool thing about this is that if you have that VIP closed group, you're going to post this in that group, right? You're going to say, hey, here it is. You can obviously make it a PDF and they can print it off. They could, and you can update this a couple times a year. But how do you have these trusted vendors and how do you keep giving that to them, right? People add new people, we get rid of people because they don't do a great job for us, if we're referring out. But building out a digital vendor page would be an opportunity. And the kind of the bonus is I have people, if they have a farm, if they farm a certain neighborhood or geographic area, they actually get a separate vendor list. They create one for their neighborhood. And so the conversation, whether text, call, email, is let's say you farm this one neighborhood and there's 300 houses in it, right? So what you're going to say is that I'm building out a neighborhood vendor directory, right? We're going to change that up a little bit. So who lives in our neighborhood that are people that we can give back to, right? It's the Stella and Dot people. It's the Tupperware people. It's the Girl Scout cookie girl. It's the, carpenter that lives down the street, right? So now what we're doing is we're saying, all right, these are the vendors that live in our neighborhood. These are the people that literally own houses and we want to keep giving them value, right? So that, again, if we can take that technology, I've seen people do this in a form of a Google spreadsheet. Google Docs are a situation where they constantly can be updated, right? You could convert it into that. So I want you to think about, how do I build a system to where I can get technology connected to that, which would be, a digital vendor directory or using social media to connect with that, right? Because we have obviously Nextdoor, we have all those apps out there, but how do you keep control of it? How do you build relationships yourself? That's what I want you to think about, okay? So I'll give you that as an example, but I wanted you to kind of be aware of that. The last one I wanted you to consider using, actually this one kind of falls more into the system. I should have moved that slide over. But I mean, I guess technology-wise, it's a Google process. Drew, so Facebook is the best page, business or personal. It's gonna be under your personal page technically, because when you're in that profile section, it'll say add group. So technically, they won't know that it's a business or personal, but it's under your personal profile page, and then it's a group. I can probably give you an example. Let me actually pull that up real quick. So if you're so this is my personal page on Facebook.
I actually found it.
Okay, good. And then these are the groups. You can create a group here. Yeah. So like I have a closed group for mine. So that's what I'm saying there. So you can do it under your personal. So I want us to really also think about, again, how do we build more relationships? We got to stay in relationship with them. I want you to consider doing an annual equity report, right? What that means is that you're going to do a very quick CMA for all of your clients every single year, right? So the system is, we're going to build it. We're going to do an equity report every year for them. And then we're going to have to build technology to get that. So we got technology, honestly, is CVR-MLS. You just pull up their neighborhood, you do the last, 180 days, very simple CMA, because if they only bought a year ago, most likely they could move. They're not going to move. They're not going to list their house for sale, right? So I'm going to give you this, but it's literally a printed quick CMA, and it's this annual report letter. And so there's actually some strategy behind this, right? It's hard to believe that you closed on your home, the month and year. Could have been 4 years ago. It could have been 6 months ago, right? Seems like yesterday. Attaches a quick comparative analysis. You closed on your home and you bought it at XYZ price. Everything else is generic. So you're changing two things. You're changing the month and year that they bought with you, and you're going to put the house that they paid, how much they paid for it back then, right? And so it'll say, you gain some considerable equity each year. It looks like your real estate investment is just getting better and better, right? Why do we buy real estate? Honestly, it's to build equity. That's why it's called that equity report. If you think you want to sell now, give me a call, and then I'll do a deeper dive into giving. I want to ask you some questions about any improvements you've done inside or outside the home. And then also, if you're not happy, if you're happy in your home, we also may be able to connect you with the refinancing with a local lender with competitive rates. And if it says, if I don't hear from you, no worries, I'll send you a new equity report this time next year. So again, the system is that every person should hear from you. If you have a financial planner, if you have anyone that helps you with stocks, bonds, 401k, like all of that, right? They send you an annual equity report. They send you an update on how much money you have in there, how much gain that you have each year, and how, how is it doing? How is your quote investment doing? And it's interesting to me that agents, we don't do this, right? We are the local economist of choice, and we have to keep pulse on it. All I'm literally doing is you paid this much money in 2015 of May 2015, and here's a slight little update, right? And don't get too bogged down on 100% pricing, right? If you look at that quick CMA, that simple one sheeter, it gives a range. It says 250, 275, 300, right? It gives a range, median average price. We're not trying to give them 100%, hey, you could list your house for this price today, because we want them to connect with us to give some connection. So building a technology piece around that, what I would do is set up a search for them, almost like a portal, a buyer portal, and send it to yourself. That could be a little prompt that says, hey, I'm going to pull an equity report for 123 Smith Street. I sold them. That could be something. What about, e-property? Wow, that'll work great. So an e-property report would be the same thing. Jane was saying that you can do that. It doesn't matter. I wanted to keep it clean and simple, but we need to be sending out equity reports. And don't even get bogged down on, I don't know if you want to, it depends on how your volume production, as far as how many units you've sold, but maybe every January you do all of them, right? Maybe you're sending 40 of these out. I personally believe you should send it out in two formats. You should send it out by email, and you should send it in hard copy with the business card, printed out, signed by you, so they know that it's sincerely from you, right? So I believe your equity report should always come by email and should go by mail to the house. And then, of course, a follow-up call or text should be, and again, if you're going back to your 36 touch, which we talked about before, is maybe that's what we're looking for, right? Maybe in March, I'm going to do an equity report, and that's what I'm going to call it and say, hey, I emailed you and mailed you out an equity report. It's a yearly evaluation on how your house is appreciating in the market. I know you only bought 4 months ago, but I just want us to realize that I'm going to be in the habit of giving this to you every year. So I wanted you to know what you're looking at and what you're going to get from me every year. So if you closed something a month ago, send it to them anyway. The market's kind of crazy. You'd be surprised how much equity they'd have in a month or two, right? So the last kind of piece of the puzzle is we want to build relationships, but we want to build it with people, right? So if you look at the sequence, we talked about systems, we talked about technology, and now we're going to build out some people part of it, right? One of the most underutilized people that we all have to build relationships with our past clients is our vendor partners. I cannot imagine how much money economic value we put out in the marketplace. When a buyer buys a house with us, they go in and they paint it. Lowe's, Home Depot, they're buying paint, right? They're calling remodelers to rip out a wall or to add hardwood floors or to paint their kitchen cabinets. We are providing so many of these resources, these vendors, with economic opportunities for them. And how do we bring it back to us to build more relationships, right? How do we get that connected? So the first of all is that don't just give your vendor contact information to everybody without having some way of connecting with them, right? So when I was telling you about that vendor directory, make sure that you're following up with those vendors and there is a reciprocal relationship that you have, right? So they say, hey, I'm going to send this vendor directory out to all my past clients. I have you as a painter on this. I'm going to give them a copy of my vendor directory. Anybody that is connected to me that say, hey, I got your name off Drew's vendor directly, I want to know, right? I want to keep track of that so that we can, number one, I can know how much business you're receiving, or if you don't get any, I can do some different marketing strategies to give you more business, right? And then what person can I help organize my wow gifts? We're going to talk about that in a second. All those little cute things, like it's their wedding anniversary, they had a new puppy, right? Because you have now those cards that you're doing for your events. And then how do I do more face-to-face relationship building? Who do I have that's holding me accountable to that? And then also the last one is who am I going to hire to help me with that, if that's where you're at first. So twice a year, we do a check-in call with our vendors, and it's on that 36 touch with our clients. Maybe said that wrong. Is we're literally calling in February that says, hey, number one, you follow up if you've sent them the vendor directory. If you haven't, you're saying, hey, we're getting ready to update our vendor directory. We're going to be sending that out to you next month. But I wanted to know who you trust that you've spent money on, right? And remodeling or doing anything in your house. And they're going to tell you. And of course, you add that to your CRM. Hey, we built a sunroom. We repainted the kitchen cabinets. Those notes need to go in that CRM, right? And then what vendor did you use, right? And get their contact information and connect them. And then we're calling those vendors and say, hey, I just got off the phone with Susie, one of my past clients. She said you did an amazing job remodeling her kitchen. I have this free vendor directory that I send out to all of my people in my database. Can I get permission to add you to that vendor list? We're going to say, is there a charge? No, there's no charge. I just want to work with good people, and I want people to give great customer service. So the only reason why you come off the list is if you don't give good customer service, you don't communicate, you're not competitively priced, but we'll build that relationship over time. So those twice a year calls with your database of, hey, who you using? It's great in the fall, right? And if you need to give some suggestions to them when you're, hey, I know the leaves are falling. Do you have a lawn guy that blows your leaves, that bags up your leaves? Like, what do you do to keep your lawn tidy in the winter, right? Or for the fall. So the first thing is I want you the people connection piece of how to build relationships. I want you to lean into your vendors. They are already getting paid. And why are we not leaning into them and utilizing them to build stronger relationships? And the last one I wanted you to think about, let me go back a little bit here, is how do I organize my wow moment gifts? So in session one, we talked about wow moment gifts. So these are not pop buys. These are not little event swag bags that you give at your your VIP Facebook group or anything like that. This is unique things happening in their life, right? So they had a new puppy, they had a new baby, they got married, they got divorced, right? These are life events. Those wow moments are those little things that you can give to them. So one of the things that I wanted to mention about this, we talked about it in the last session, is that building relationships is more about like noticing those things. So again, we talked about in session one, I go through social media. That's a great way to, a lot of people connect. They share what they are experiencing in their lives through that platform, right? So if I see that they're getting ready to get married, I had a couple that was getting engaged. I screenshotted it, I saved it, and then I sent it off to my assistant, and we had an engagement gift sent over to their house, right? So I want you to think about what you can do to build out those relationships with wow moment gifts. We have a lot of gifts, and what you can see, I'll show you. We have a lot. We have like shelves. We just have stuff already pre-made. This has got a bottle of champagne in it. We've got other things, all kinds of different things pre-done, right? So I would highly recommend having a system where you buy 3 or 4 onesies, right? Everybody has a baby. Oh, not everyone has a baby. A lot of people are having children, right? Maybe some dog bones, or just put some things together. That's a system, right? Is it repeatable? So buy 3 or 4 of the same dog bones, buy 3 or 4 of the same onesies, buy 3 or 4 things for about weddings, right? Keep them on a shelf, and then I have a teenager, so if she can drop them by if it's not me, right? How do we do that? The last thing is you can mail some stuff. So we do a lot of things where we mail it to them. So we create, if I see this, we have these little flat envelopes that are puffy in there. So we will put, and this is a little bit more dramatic than like a envelope, like a traditional size envelope, but we're putting stuff in there. Like we had beer openers that have our logo on them. We have, coasters. We have all kinds of keychains. something that's flat, something that doesn't weigh a lot. So we can, this is $4 or $5 in the mail. And so that's what we're doing to keep in relationship with them. So maybe they don't have a monumental event in their life right now, or maybe they're not into social media. They don't put it all out there like some of us do. So maybe they're more conservative when it comes to sharing their insights. But I want you to think about, how do I build a system where I can get these things out to my people so that they know I care beyond the house, right? So I want you to kind of go into this next season. So the last session that we'll have, which will be on February 3rd, is we're going to go into transactions. So we're going to go into, how do you ask for the referral literally at the closing table with sincere, not sticky, like really nice and full of gratitude. So how are we going to build transactional systems about gaining more referrals? How do we get Google reviews? How do we do things that are going to give you more opportunities of building a stronger relationship with them through transactions, but also how we can keep the transactions together. Checklists. We're going to talk about how we can build some system checklists. We're going to give you checklists for closings on listings, closings on buyers. I'm sure you have some. Yeah, we'll give you ours. So you might want to give yours a little facelift for 2022. And then we'll go into some technology tools that help you with technology. And then, of course, we're going to give you some people that we trust that may be good transaction coordinators for you if you feel like that's the next step for you to do that. All right. So that's kind of what it is. If you guys need any additional like one-on-one resources with me, you can see we have some coaching spots open, and all you do is just go to my website. So you just go to thefreedomcompanies.com, and then there's a little booking button. And if you want to chat with me, learn about your business, see if we're a good fit, you grab a time, and that's pretty much what we would do there. But overall, what I want you to kind of go into this next week or two before February 3rd is, what systems do I need to put in place so I can build stronger relationships? All right. Well, that's what I have for you. I want to get you out on time because I know you guys are busy connecting and buying and selling houses with your clients. But thank you guys so much. And I'll talk to you guys February 3rd. It is a separate RSVP link. Each one's separate because we want to track that. So I'll send you the recording for session 1, recording for session 2, all the resources that we gave you today. And then the final thing is the registration link for session 3. All right, everybody. Well, have a great week, and I'll see you guys hopefully on February 3rd. All right. Well, have a great one. Talk to you guys later. Bye.